What is the most bullshit reason for a teacher to give you a bad grade? We had weekly spelling tests in my 11th grade English class, which I thought was a bit remedial by that point, and probably said so in a not completely diplomatic way. The teacher even made you write any words you got wrong 5 times and hand that into her by the end of the class. I would typically get perfect scores on them, but one time I got a test back with no actual errors, marked as a 0%. My teacher's explanation was she saw me talking to someone in our free period before class who ended up doing poorly, and that was my fault because I distracted them from possibly studying. How does this make literally any sense? My friend failed French because she had a French accent, and the teacher couldn't understand her French because she was American. My friend had spoke French since she was 4. Took Spanish class in high school. Half the class was either born in Mexico or first generation American with Mexican parents. But apparently Mexican Spanish isn't real Spanish and would make them down for having accents. My 7th grade gym teacher gave me a D because I hardly ever smiled. My life sucked at that time. You seem like an unhappy kid. Let me give you something else to be unhappy about because of it. Wrote in Chicago format and lost points. The assignment instructions said to write in Chicago format. Edit. To anyone curious, I did try and point this out. Basically still lost points, but they upped the final grade. AskReddit. Lot of questions on Chicago. Here's a brief overview. https://al.per2.ed/research_and_manual_17th _edition/emos_formatting_and_style_format.html. It's common in social studies/history courses in my experience. Basically, when thinking Chicago, think O. The footnote 1. This reminds me of an assignment in which lost marks for not double spacing my work. I did double space my work. A friend of mine got a -1 for scratching his head. Our teacher said he was faking it. I guess that teacher had too many bad experiences with women who faked head scratches. Got points off because of the bad grammar in the quote I used. The quote was a penhemas I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. I was taking a 1-week online class in the syllabus. The teacher said you must post 6 times throughout the week. So, I posted 6x on Monday, 1x on Wednesday, and felt I was good to go. I get my grade/teacher comments and the teacher wrote KNO 905. You had some good posts early in the week, but then you stopped posting. So in order to mark you down I was annoyed by this, but then realized it was the last online course in the program and frankly I didn't care. I still graduated, and that certificate is proudly sitting in my junk drawer for all to see. Taking online courses now, and the rule in almost every single class seems to be 1 post and comment on 2 of your classmates' posts. Every week it's the same posts. Is really interesting and important. I really learned a lot, especially about. Then a few responses saying I really agree. Really is important in today's industry. Because he didn't read my paper. It was a university class where a TA was responsible for grading the papers. He was clearly overwhelmed and just reading introductions and grading based on them alone. I had a 2-part introduction that fully addressed the prompt, but as he only read the first part, 1 got my paper back with a big C at the top. I ended up getting full credit after I challenged the initial grade. Glad you had a better result. My first large college paper for a pre-Civil War history class freshman year came back with a giant red D written on it with practically no feedback. I was in a writing program and I had always excelled at essays, so I was sort of shocked. Went to the professor and asked him about the grade and lack of instruction. He sighed, looked down and said, "Westhoff, I don't like you." He went on and on after that with some bullshit reasons, but apparently the big issue came from the first week of class. He was talking about manifest destiny and said something like, "Now you have to remember, back in those days there were 50 to 100 miles between towns out in the western USA." And I raised my hand and said that there was still 50 to 100 miles between towns in the western US. He said I was exaggerating, and I told him I wasn't. because that's where I grew up. That paper was 40% of our grade. He refused to change the grade or even reread it. I scraped a C+ in that class, and I was so fucking proud of that grade, even though it was the worst grade I received in my life. At the end of the semester, I decided to ask him for his grading documentation to see if I could challenge the paper with the school, but he claimed he had already thrown it away. I found out later that was bullshit too, but I didn't press any further. Staples were not in the right spot for my assay, even though I had them in the top left corner like always. That's when you know the teacher doesn't like you and is literally looking for petty reasons to take points off. My teacher lost my coursework on the bus home. I refused to redo a year's worth of work in 3 weeks, and I got taken from an A to a C. What kind of school allows a teacher to, I assume, admit they lost coursework and have the school go, oh well, student's fault, minus points? That makes no sense to me. I got 10/10ths on a test, but my teacher took points away from me because she didn't want my classmates to be jealous of my grade. This was English class in a Dutch school, so English is a requirement. I was the only native English speaker in my class, and this was a course for adults only. 4th grade, the day before Thanksgiving break. There was no work to be done, of course, so we had a busywork art assignment. We were all handed graph paper and told to color each of the squares either yellow, orange, red, or brown. And once we finished, we were supposed to cut out corn shapes to make Indian corn decorations. I already thought this WAA stupid, and filling in all the squares was tedious. So I traced the corn shape on the graph paper and only filled in the squares that would end up as part of the final product. This meant my decorations looked the same as all the others, but I didn't waste time filling in squares that would just get cut away. When the teacher saw what I had done, she gave me a 50 for skipping work. I did a presentation in biology. The teacher told me she wanted me to do a creative introduction instead of just opening it with the standard "today I'll be presenting." So I did. I invented a short story about an old lady going to the supermarket and worked in some early symptoms of Alzheimer's, the topic I was presenting. I was so invested in that character. She had a name and a backstory. I even drew up a few comic panels so that everyone could follow along easily. Then at the end of my presentation, I asked my class which symptoms the old lady in the story had, and hence what stage her Alzheimer's was. I get my grade back, and the teacher deducted points for the intro, since she told me to do a creative intro, so it wasn't an original idea. Like, what the hell? I came up with the story, I drew the comic panels, all of that was me. I felt so betrayed. If I hadn't done a creative intro, she would have deducted points, so I did one, and she deducted points anyway. And after all that work, still grinds my gears. I was 15 at the time. In the 90s, my family didn't have a computer, and I had no access to one. I spent a lot of time on a handwritten assignment for school, and the teacher gave me a B. Writing as a comment, I would have given you an A if you had typed it up on a computer. I'm still bitter. I knew a girl in the early 2000s who used a typewriter because she didn't have a printer or a floppy disk reader in her computer. Back then in school, we were offered an optional class to learn 10-finger typing. It would be done on typewriters in the school, but we would also get homework assignments. My parents didn't have a typewriter or a computer, so I signed up for that course hoping I could talk my parents into getting a computer. Of course they got a typewriter instead, which they had no use for. At the end of the class, I was the only one who didn't get the best possible grade, because my homework assignments would have typos in them. The rest of the children had computers at home and would use Word with autocorrect to type out the assignments, so everyone besides me got full points on all assignments. I have no idea how the teacher didn't notice this, but I was not one to tell on others. A spelling test, not graded by the teacher, but by the kid next to us. Kid named Anthony decided all my words that had letters U and E were switched and marked pretty much every word wrong. They weren't. Like, this was probably in 3rd grade, so my handwriting was chicken scratch, but that was really stupid to me. I was upset, since it was the first time I failed something in school. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more content. Peace.